What up, Facebook? Have you ever wondered what creates attraction in people and in couples, and just what really gets people excited? Or more specifically, how you can get someone more excited by you? Let me make this a bit sexier. Ooh, so sexy. Basically, if I can sum it up in one sentence, that is that the attraction lies in the action. Is that a lot of us, we're conditioned, like we watch pornography and things like that, or we watch a lot of television and we see and we almost expect things to come to us. And we have a certain sense of entitlement. That is like, okay, if I just do this, then I will get the things that I need. Or if I sit and I wait, then love, or then that person will be attracted to me. And I'll tell you a story, actually. When this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, before I was, the Harvey that you know me today. I remember being in a grocery store and seeing a really attractive girl, and I'm like, I'm going to speak to her later. I'll speak to her later. And there we were, in line to pay for our groceries. I'm like, I'll speak to her later. And I'm just like, something will happen, and the environment or something it'll come out of nowhere. Like, it'll create a situation. And there we were. And then she walked to her car, which happened to be near my car, and I was like, this is it. This will be my moment. And then she got in her car and she drove away. And this situation has always puzzled me, because I was always wondering why personally I was entrapped by this idea of later, this idea of that something will happen later and it'll just happen later, and what it comes from is a conditioned sense of entitlement. And I've noticed that in myself, and I've noticed that in a whole bunch of other people, that we're conditioned to think that, we are deserving enough and it'll come to us. And you are right, we are deserving enough, but it's not going to come to us if we just sit in our room and say, I am deserving. I'm going to message. I am deserving. This is the way the thing should go. So if you look at it then, if the attraction lies in the action, I want you to unpack this, because at the very superficial level, it literally just means action. It literally just means that you have to actually do something. But if we take this deeper, I want you to almost live by this. If this is something that you can figure out how to get that person attracted, living by action is something that's incredibly important. Because if you live by action, what generally tends to happen is that you start to notice your behaviors a little bit more. That you might realize that maybe the reason why, if you're a girl watching this, why a guy, if you're a guy watching this, because this is very universal, if you're a guy watching this, why you haven't been seen as attractive before, is because probably you just came off as rather what I would describe as boring. Is that they don't know the person that you want to be attracted to you is like, oh, you're just like XYZ. I caught up with someone, and it's really interesting. It turns out she's studying to be neuroscience, and if you're watching this, hi, we have meetings every few weeks, and she said something that I wrote down on a little napkin, and you can't read it because it's backwards, but it says, when people find a pattern, they tend to drop out. And by this I mean that if people find a pattern, so they understand it and recognize you, they can put you in a box, and then they tend to emotionally drop out. And that is the case because what happens is before people recognize you as, ooh, you're a friend, or you're someone who's exciting, or you're someone who's, ooh, very potential something, if they don't immediately recognize you, they're going to put you in a box of you're a stranger, or you're a weirdo, or you're the person at the cafe who makes me feel uncomfortable. So, here's the secret. If the attraction lies in the action, and you are being really genuinely authentic in the way that you're expressing yourself, even if it doesn't make sense, no one can put you in a box. Because the truth is, you're someone who actually can't be put into a box, and if you can, maybe you need to probably work on yourself just a little bit more. So that actually works in your favor, because if you're then expressing yourself in a weird and crazy and incredible, wonderful, multi-dimensional way that almost is this intangible thing, sure, it has to be relatable. You have to say things that the person can understand. But if you're genuinely being yourself and whatever you're thinking and feeling, genuinely, this is beyond your fears, this is beyond your anxieties, beyond your dreams. If you are in this moment expressing yourself exactly what you are thinking and feeling, because you are not your fears, you are not your anxieties, you are not even your dreams, you are who you are right now. And if in this moment, or in this moment, or in this moment, or in this moment, or in this moment, if you are expressing that part of yourself in that attraction, which generally tends to be a flowing, giving motion. I do this because it's a giving without expecting anything in return. That is the most common and most powerful form of attraction, and the most powerful form of action. Because what is love? Love is giving. Love is not wanting something to receive. Sure, we need to receive emotionally, because we need to sustain ourselves emotionally. But if you were to find a partner that allows to give, that gives you back in that same high level consciousness kind of way, then you're able to give as much as you can. But the truth here is knowing that if the attraction lies in the action, then if you've done everything you can to express yourself, then maybe it's not to do with you. That if you've worked on yourself, you've uncovered who you are as a person, and you're able to be incredibly present, and you're moving beyond all your fears and all your anxieties and things like that, because that is what we tend to identify with. We're like, I have anxiety, therefore I am a scared person, which tends to be the case. Or what I generally find is that, we tend to identify with labels that society has put on. So people are like, oh, I am an introvert. You're not necessarily an introvert. What you are is your style of relating with the world, and it's labeled. For example, I'm quite surprised when people say, oh, my Myers-Briggs personality test, it can change. Of course it can change. Because you are a person in motion. You're like a flame. If you tilt the candle, the flame shapes differently. It evolves, it moves. You're like water in a bowl. If you change the bowl, the thing changes. Now, what the problem is, I find with people, is that if you're water in a bowl, what we think we are is the bowl, when we are actually the water. Right now, for example, I love these live videos because I don't know what I'm saying. I haven't thought these out. I express it, and it comes out in a new and completely exciting new way, and I love that, and that's what I mean. It's like I'm observing the water and not the bowl. So what is the bowl of your personality? The bowl is your clothes, your life condition, your job, your dreams, your fears, your hopes, anything that is in the future or in the past. That is the bowl. And I love this, because I remember I was at the Eckhart Tolle talk when he was in Melbourne, and it really opened my mind, and he said something that really expanded my world of vision view. And he said, if this was the only, because I was feeling really depressed. Contrary to popular belief, I never really expressed this online, but I was in a really emotionally bad place. I'd done a lot of confronting things, and I was going through a healing crisis where maybe it was the last time I was going to feel that kind of depression or that kind of sadness, but it was going through me experiencing it. And I wasn't trying to judge it, I was just letting it come out. But he said, let me just get this really in your face. He said, if this was the only moment you ever lived, would you still feel this way? And I'm going to say this a million times, and I'll say this to you if you're ever feeling anxiety, anxious for things like that, and if you've ever been to the webinar or any other things, you'll know I say this a lot. If this is the only moment you ever felt, would you still feel this way? And you might say, yes, I feel sad. But if this was the only moment you ever felt, ever existed, if this was the only moment you ever existed, would you still know what sadness looks like? Would you still know what anxiety looks like? And if you follow this thought And often if you pay attention to not only the thoughts, but the gaps between your thoughts as well, what tends to happen is it's a no, and it's a no, and it's a no, and it's a no, and as you keep having thoughts and they arise, then often it's no. I would not even know what anxiety looks like. I would not even know what pain looks like. I would not even know what dreams look like. I would not even know what hopes. I would not even know what wants look like. But the thing is, first of all, Natasha, you says I look like Matthew Hussey and Willy Wonka. Thank you. I hope it's the original and not the Johnny Depp, because the Johnny Depp is a bit of a weirdo looking one. But anyway, so if this is who you are in this moment, if you are this person beyond your fears, beyond your anxieties, beyond your dreams, beyond your hopes, if this is literally the only moment that you ever existed, and you express what you're feeling in that moment as a giving, nurturing, just flowing form of love, that is the attraction. And that is the point of action that you want to come from. And if you've done that, if you have started feeling if you've started feeling more instead of thinking, how do I solve this situation? If you do that first, because honestly you need to feel first before you think. And often if you feel the situations, I often say that, instinct based on experience is better. And it's true, but most of the time we don't allow ourselves to have that instinct because we overthink it. I have so many people that they come to me and they're like, bunk, and bunk. They come to me and they're like, do I do this, or do I do this, or do I do this, or do I do this? And honestly, the first answer that they had in that situation, whether it was romantic, interpersonal, sometimes workplace situations, often the first thing that they came up with was the best thing, and then they overthought it. So there's this sense of feeling that I think is really important to accommodate. And if the attraction lies in the action, that thing that you're feeling, even if you get rejected, because after you get rejected, if that is the only moment you ever feel exist, would you even know what the rejection is? Would you even know how to recognize rejection? And this is my big thing, is that reality is it's 90% interpretation. And if things are an interpretation, fuck, my hair is insane. If things are interpretation, then things can really be changed. And if you're operating from a sense of interpretation, then that is the realm that we tend to screw up on. I find as well, people judge themselves harsher than the world is judging themselves, them. People say to me all the time, they say, I hope you're not judging me, I hope this is okay, I hope this is bad. And I'm like, I can tell you if it works or not, but the fact that if you're judging it, that is solely on you. I'm not judging you. I don't give a shit. You care more than I do. I care about you as a person, and I care that you get the right thing, but that judgment that you have on your actions, if it is good or if it is bad, is purely based off conditioning, is purely based off whether mummy or daddy decided that was a good thing for them. And so you decided if it was a good thing for you. And I know this because I've been through this myself. I've been through this, and a lot of my personal work, because I'm on my own journey as well. You guys have got to remember that, is that a lot of my personal work is that I work on these things. I realize that, I struggle to start answering emails. I'm like, it's because I have an issue with the idea of work, even though I love work. And I sit down, I find the feeling in my body, I let it pass, this whole body sensations thing that you allow. There's the whole healing thing, and in the future I'm going to be, not just yet, because I haven't figured out the way to bottle it yet, but I will be creating a giant multi-day seminar about this, where if I can get you to experience you for even a moment, because I know a lot of people who really, they haven't experienced themselves yet, is that we keep doing, and a lot of the things that we do, we're trying to figure this out yet. We're trying to figure this out. If I can get you to experience you for a split moment, just a tiny moment, the real you, beyond all your fears and anxieties and your hopes and your dreams, the real you in that moment, then all of this conditioning that you have, oh, a little flower, that's cute, thanks, all the conditioning that you have that holds you back from your fears, even the relationships that you want, even the love that you want, even the holding you back from sensing the other person. Imagine if that's like a woolen jumper. That'll start to unravel. And then my work here is done. Like, that'll do itself. I'm just like, yeah, you do you now. But basically, I've run on this giant tangent. But the truth is, yeah, the attraction lies in the action. If you are acting from a genuine place, genuine, I have to stress that enough. Beyond your, I can only point to this. I can't explain it in words. And these are my words as well. Remember, like, with any coach or any person you listen to, they're going to explain it in their words, and it is your job to interpret it into experiences. And I don't really want people who just, like, listen to my word as gospel anyway. They're like, oh, but he said this, and therefore it's like this. And I'm like, did you experience it? Did you take action? Did you try and say what I told you to say? Or did you try and think in a different way? They're like, no, why would I do that? I'm like, well, then, like, you do you and I'll do me. But yeah, the attraction lies in the action. If you're coming from a genuine place, there's absolutely nothing that can go wrong. And also, if it does go wrong, if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to be, that's an interpretation. Interpretations can be changed. That's all in your head. If it doesn't go out that way, then maybe that person wasn't ready for someone like you. And then you have your answer now and not later, when it's a week later and you're sad that guy didn't text you back. Because you got your answer in that moment. With that, have a great day.